A number of years ago, I came back from a 5-day retreat, and I told the people in my homily that next Sunday that it was a wonderful week. I was so quiet and calm, away from everything, no phones, that I really needed it. After Mass, a young mother with 4 little children came up to me and said, "You, a priest, think you need a week's retreat? You should have been at my house this past week." Then she began to tell me. She said her husband was going on some conference for a week. On Monday, one of the kids turned on the bath water upstairs and forgot about it, so the water came down through the dining room chandelier. The next day, one of her little ones flushed a diaper down the toilet. They had to call the plumber. Thursday, she got a nasty call from a bill collector. She told him, I wrote the check weeks ago, and then she found it later in the afternoon behind the desk. And that evening, she got a speeding ticket on the way to her son's basketball game because she was late. Some weeks go like that, don't they? Don't they? They get worse. You know, we only have to read the Gospels to look at Jesus' journey. His life was not a piece of cake. In fact, at the end, there was no cake at all for him in this world. In the midst of our human condition, even God's chosen one suffers. In the midst of our human condition, we too will suffer. Our bodies fall apart, believe me. And facing that reality for some is extremely daunting. The book of Sirach, our first reading, God is partial to the weak. He hears the cry of the poor. God walks with our pain and our suffering and our journey from this world. And until that journey ends, our church strengthens us, walks with us on our journey through the sacraments, particularly Eucharist and reconciliation, and surely the anointing of the sick. It's a healing for one who maybe his faith is not very strong, or for one whose body is aching and hurting. I remember 20 years ago, I was the pastor at West Des Moines at Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart's a huge parish. I think there are 2,900 families when I was the pastor. And when we did anointing of the sick, we did it at all the masses on the weekend. And I remember at one of my masses, at the end of everyone's receiving the sacrament, a young man, maybe in his 30s, brought in his child who was severely handicapped.